Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 425 at Planet Comicon, Kansas City. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Very good.
Very tired.
I bet you are.
You look tired. You've had 3 full days.
Three
of
very
nonstop
full
work.
days. If it wasn't for momentum, I would have stopped moving. So, you're making me sit down, and it's probably a mistake at this point.
You won't get up now, right? Yeah. Which leads us into what we did this week and the subject of the show, which is Planet Comicon, because we're at Planet Comicon in Kansas City.
Woo!
Yay! So,
Live, kind of.
well, and here's the thing is, Keith and I have only been here today, which is Sunday. We're recording on Sunday afternoon. You've been here all 3 days, but you've been busy. But you were here on Friday and did get some free time to do the con. Talk a little bit about what your experience has been so far.
Well, this is the big one. This is the 20th anniversary of Planet Comicon, which is the Midwest's largest geek gathering, expo, comic book convention, etc. And it's always a good show, but this year feels especially large and important and cool. And behind the scenes, I can tell you that they did confirm they had kind of a record Friday, which is, it's always good to hear that. But it still didn't feel necessarily swamped, which I credit to just good planning. I can't take credit for that. I'm not in that department. But the crowds were friendly. The guests were great. We got to go up and meet Henry Winkler, which has been kind of a lifelong, Henry Winkler's coming, oh my God. I was super excited. And I don't get starstruck very often anymore with as much stuff as we've done. But Henry was cool. He was just an absolute joy. And he was actually out in front of his table and, signing different stuff and talking to people. And
When I walk by, he looks like he's being real out there and impersonable, to people, yeah.
And very friendly. And so talked with him for a little bit, and then we did John Wesley Shipp. So I met The Flash. Now, I don't know who everybody else is talking about that's on TV nowadays, who these people are in the movie. I met The Flash, guys.
He is the Flash, currently, still.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the new Flash is he's still the Flash, which I think is pretty neat.
Well, I told him that. I said, I can't believe I'm standing here talking to The Flash. He goes, well, I've played 3 of them. And I said, no, you're The Flash. And he got kind of a kick out of that. But he was just the nicest guy. And he was the one, believe it or not, that one I kind of got starstruck on. Really? John Wesley Shipp? Yeah. As I was telling him, I was like, we were there every Thursday night. And he said, yeah, you were probably going, why isn't my show on? I was like, yeah. Why did they preempt this again? But so that was fun. But, there's the usual assortment of good artists and things. I still have to go find one of my comic book artists that I haven't seen yet. But for the most part, we spent a good chunk of Friday in the Grand Ballroom, setting up panels and doing a lot of that. We spent all day Saturday down there directing traffic for a lot of panels. Really fantastic crowds for that.
Did you get to sit in on any of the panels?
I got to see just a little bit of Shatner on Saturday night. And I can say, with the exception of one of the guests asked, would he like to be on Discovery? Other than that, there was not one Star Trek question.
Wow.
They asked about his horses. They asked about his dogs. They asked about his music. They asked about his Christmas album that came out. They allowed him the opportunity to talk about Has Been. Somebody asked a Has Been question with Ben Folds. I was like, really? That's like my favorite album. My favorite Shatner album, anyway. It was amazing.
I think that's probably the best way to get somebody like Shatner to open up, too, because he's probably so inundated by those same questions year after year about the con. Being able to talk about other things, or about the con, at cons about Star Trek, it's probably nice for him to be able to open up about other things.
Yeah, well, and he was only going to do a half hour, and he wound up going probably for about 48 minutes. But, he talked about Better Late Than Never. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I love that, yeah. Well, with Henry Winkler, too.
With Henry Winkler. And apparently we upset his handler because his handler had arranged that half-hour panel because Henry Winkler was in the car waiting to go to dinner with Shatner. So, Shatner ran long. But So, but yeah, it was a fun panel. He was a hoot as usual. Yeah, I didn't get to see too much other than that one.
Keith, what have you done today?
We just walked the floor. It's expansive compared to previous years. It is expanded even beyond, and it's still, as big as the crowds as they've been, there's still a lot of room to move around with how it's spaced. Some areas get a little congested, but other than that, it's been really easy to navigate and really easy to find your way back to something that you've seen before, so long as you remember where it was. I mean,
I was surprised how quickly you guys made it over here.
yeah, it's really easy to get through. Even Sarah and I, once we finished walking, we walked all the way back, and it didn't take that long, even though it's still expansive and still really big. There's just really well crowd management. And the vendors, I think there's a nice variety this year too. A lot of great artists and a lot more variety of other than just comics and action figures. There's a lot of really cool, neat booths if you go look for them. Like there's one of paintings with action figures bursting out of them that's really neat. There's a couple of Doctor Who things too.
Did you see the guy that had the crystal TARDISes with the etchings?
Yeah.
They had the complete lineup now.
Completely, because we saw a little bit of that at Time Eddie, but they only had a few of the TARDIS.
Yeah, they've got the
TARDISes.
complete lineup now. So
We're sharing intent. I think one of the things that I noticed about it is there's more vendors this year. There's no shortage of vendors here, and I've been a huge complainer in the past about this con and how big it's gotten, and this is the first year. Now, granted, this is Sunday, but even for a Sunday crowd, there's more people here than I've seen on most Sundays in the past.
Especially considering it's Free Kid Sunday.
Yes.
Where I think a lot more people came that had kids because their kids would get in for free, 12 and under.
And one of the things we've always kind of lamented, especially when I bring in the kids, because the kids are here with me, is the fact that you don't see as many people dressed up on Sunday, and that's what the kids come to see. And so they were a little bummed that we were coming on Sunday, but we've seen a ton of people dressed up. There's been a lot of people this year, a lot of great cosplay. I love this. We're outside right now, which has never happened at a Planet Comicon. If you want to go outside to get some fresh air, you have to go out the front door in years past. This year, they've got the food trucks out on a back dock, and you're able to come out here, get some fresh air. It's the perfect spot for the food trucks. I noticed they were able to get more food trucks in here because they've done it this way. So this is such a great idea to have this back here.
Yeah.
There's more variety of food. The vendors aren't run out of stuff like they have been. Now, I don't know what Saturday was like, because I know that typically Saturday night is a night you'll go around and you'll notice food vendors are out of pop, they're out of soda, water. But today, I mean, we're most of the way through the day, and everybody's still pretty well stocked, but there's still people getting stuff, which I think is good. So it's not like they've overstocked for a day that nobody's here, because there are a lot of people here. So I know I've been a Debbie Downer in years past, but this has been a great experience for me, with especially knowing that there's a lot more people here. I agree. The crowd management is great. The crowds have been great. I think everybody's happier. People aren't stressed out because things are going so smoothly this year.
I also noticed that it looks like they moved the kids section off the main floor like previous years.
Yes.
And it's in its own room, and I kind of looked in there, and it looked really neat.
the little youngling one.
Yeah, the really young kids stuff.
There's a lot of toys and stuff for kids to play with in there.
I think that's a great idea, and especially if one of the parents wants to go sit down and the other one wants to go walk. That's such a cool way to keep the kids occupied. That's such a long thing, especially while you wait for like a panel that you want to go to.
That was a definite thing that I kind of sat in on part of the discussion behind that, and they said after Friday they will do that from this point forward. It works so much better for them to be not only off the beaten path a little bit, but in their own room, that they had so much better control over it. And yeah, they said, okay, that's a thing now that's going to happen. So.
This has been kind of the year for my kids. I think they're having the most fun this year, partly because when we got here, we found out one of the voice actors for one of my son's favorite anime shows was here. And we had no idea. And so that was the first place we beelined to. We went there, got the autograph. And I, for the life of me, can't remember his name, but he voices the main character in My Hero Academia, which is one of Mason's favorite things.
Oh, he's also Trigun, I think.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
I didn't know he was coming either.
And then the other really big thing, which we found this out ahead of time, and that's why Caitlin's really here, is we're here to see Jennifer Morrison, who was Emma Stone in I think, Once Upon a Time, which she's a huge fan of. And so we sat on her panel. It was 1 o'clock for an hour, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I did step out a little bit because I caught up with Dave and his family because they were here waiting for the film festival, which is happening now, and then popped back in there. But she was really good. And then I took Mason up to the Overwatch. It's a gaming esports finale. He's there now. In fact, I just dropped Caitlin off there. And then, but I took Caitlin over to get her autograph with Jennifer Morrison and a picture. So she was ecstatic about that. She had a lot of fun with that. So this has been one of those dad years for me. I usually come here looking for my stuff for me, my goal. I got to get this autograph. I didn't really have anybody here this year that I was like, oh, I really got to get that person's autograph or this person's autograph. But it's really cool from the dad perspective to bring the kids here, and they're actually now involved more this year than they ever have been. In fact, they're both dressed up right now, so that's pretty minor cosplay, but so I'm experiencing from the dad view this year and really seeing it through my kids' eyes, which is a lot of fun this year.
That's good. That was going to be my next question: is how are the kids enjoying it for Sunday? I know we today before we started work, we went down and got Lori Petty's autograph because she's kind of always been one of those for me. I loved her in Brimstone. We told her how disappointed we were, and she goes, "Yeah, what happened? That should have been a show that made it." I was like, "Well, it was too far ahead of its time. If it was on nowadays, it would have made it." And then Wallace Shawn. And the funniest thing happened. Mel was wearing one of her Pure Romance shirts, and it just said "Women Empowering Women." And he says, "Oh, is Women Empowering Women? Is that the thing?" She goes, "Yeah, it's my business." And he goes, "Oh, your business is a feminist thing?" And they had this entire conversation. And I'm giggling internally. I mean, not that this is a funny thing, because obviously this is an important thing. But just the fact that Mel is having this feminist conversation about women empowering women with the Grand Nagus of the Ferengi Empire. I just got the biggest tickle out of that. But he was a sweetheart. He was really great.
Well, this is going to be a short one this week because we're so busy this weekend, and I think we're all going to be exhausted, especially Sean by the time we get out of here. So is there anything else you want to talk about adding to this? One of the things that I did notice is there's a minimal Doctor Who presence here, but that's been kind of the case over the years. But there is a lot of merchandise in there. There's a lot of things to look up that are Doctor Who.
I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more 13th Doctor representation this from what I've seen. I've only seen 2 people dressed up.
I've seen 3.
I saw one person with just a shirt. But then I'm also not entirely surprised because there hasn't, as far as the vendor floor goes, because there hasn't been a lot of 13th Doctor merchandise released yet.
Not a lot in there.
So I was kind of surprised, but not too much by that.
I saw 10 yesterday.
10, 13?
10 13s.
Oh, I thought you saw 10, like the 10th Doctor.
No. I saw 10 13s yesterday in line for panels. Couldn't take photos because I was working. But I made a note of it. It was like, wow, there's a ton of 13th Doctor representation, which is great.
We just missed them. They were yesterday.
Apparently.
The usual assortment of Osgoods and other companions. And I think maybe what it is for the 20th anniversary for Planet Comicon, I think they were trying to go with a wide gambit of...
There wasn't a Who guest.
There wasn't a Who guest, but we did have, 2 or 3 years ago, where they had 4 different companions.
Yeah.
So they kind of got overloaded on that one year, and so I think this year they were trying to go... As opposed to, it's the Supernatural Con or the Star Trek. They kind of tried to spread it out a little bit. They had a little bit of everything for everybody, except for Who this year. So
There was a really impressive, you got the pictures of it on your Facebook, Sean, the steampunk Dalek.
Yeah.
Which I saw in person too. That was really
Wasn't it cool?
That was really, really cool.
I sent Eric, a friend of the show, Eric, up there with Red Dalek. I sent him up there to find it, and he was pretty wowed by it. He came... He was Galaxy Quest on Saturday, which was cool. And he was like, well, yeah, 20th anniversary of the movie. Which, the other cool cosplay that I saw today, which today is the day we're recording this is the actual anniversary of The Matrix. And we have people that were running around in, I saw a bunch of Matrix folk. They had Switch and Cypher and not the normal Neo and Trinity. So that was cool.
It's also Batman's birthday today, 80th birthday I saw. So
80th,
yeah,
that's right.
So Batman Day, happy Batman Day, guys.
The one other bit of cosplay that stood out to me was I've seen quite a bit of Umbrella Academy representation.
Really?
Yeah, even to Hazel and Cha-Cha with masks from the comics, not from the series, which is just slightly different enough that it was pretty cool. And a couple Klauses.
They're very cool. I haven't seen any of that yet, but
All right, well, we want to thank you guys for listening again. Apologies for this being a short week, but it was better than taking a week off, right? So is there anything else we need to touch on this week before we close the show?
If you're ever in the neighborhood, make sure you come out. Planet Comicon is definitely worth your time. It will be in March again next year, which means it'll snow at some point in time next year, as it did this year again. Yeah, come on out.
Very good. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm in the wrong chair.
You're not.
Oh, you're right, I'm not. I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
I'm tired.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.